Hey Bills Mafia, welcome back to the channel. As always, the Buffalo Bills are working tirelessly to improve and take that next step toward bringing a Lombardi trophy to Buffalo. The team is in a constant pursuit of excellence, and this offseason could feature some blockbuster moves to make that championship dream a reality. If you love the Bills and want to stay updated on all things Buffalo, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get into today's big story. The Bills are rumored to be a prime landing spot for Cleveland Browns defensive end Myles Garrett if his trade request is honored. This move could be exactly what Buffalo needs to push past the AFC Championship hurdle and finally reach the Super Bowl. However, pulling off a trade of this magnitude would not come cheap. NFL insider Joe Buscaglia of The Athletic recently laid out a potential trade package that could bring Garrett to Buffalo. According to Buscaglia, the Bills would receive Myles Garrett, a 2026 fifth-round pick, and a 2027 seventh-round pick. In return, the Browns would get defensive end A.J. Epenesa, Buffalo's 2025 first-round pick, 2026 first-round pick, and a 2027 fourth-round pick. At first glance, that's a steep price, but when you consider Garrett's impact, it might be worth every penny. The six-time Pro Bowler and former NFL Defensive Player of the Year has been one of the most dominant pass rushers in the league. He's coming off a season where he played all 17 games, recorded 47 total tackles, 14 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and even managed a fumble recovery. His 92.3 Pro Football Focus grade ranks second among all edge rushers. For Buffalo, adding, Garrett would instantly take the defense to the next level. Last season, the Bills finished 18th in total sacks, and while the defense was solid, it wasn't dominant. The AFC Championship game loss to the Kansas City Chiefs highlighted the team's need for a game-changing edge rusher who can disrupt elite quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes. Garrett would provide exactly that. Now, let's talk about the Bills' current defensive end situation. Buffalo has 4 defensive ends under contract for next season: Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, A.J. Epenesa, and rookie Javon Solomon. While Rousseau has flashed potential and Solomon could develop into a solid contributor, the unit lacks a true superstar. The biggest question mark is Von Miller, who has struggled to live up to his massive 6-year, $120 million contract. Since tearing his ACL in 2022, he hasn't been the same player, managing just 6 sacks in 31 games over the past 2 seasons. At 35 years old, he carries a $23.8 million cap hit in 2025, making him a likely candidate for release. By cutting Miller, Buffalo could free up significant cap space. If the Bills release him before June 4th for OEDC roast, they save $8.4 million. If they wait until after June 1, that number jumps to $17.4 million. Including Epenesa in the trade for Garrett would add another $3.3 million in savings. This move would allow Buffalo to absorb Garrett's contract while strengthening their defensive line. But is the trade really worth it? Let's break it down. Buffalo would be giving up 2 first-round picks, a 4th rounder, and Epenesa. That's a high price, but let's be honest. How often does a talent like Myles Garrett become available? The Bills' 2025 first-round pick is already set at number 30 overall, meaning they wouldn't be giving up a premium top 10 selection. And considering Buffalo's continued success with Josh Allen at quarterback, the 2026 first-rounder is likely to be another late pick. The reality is that finding an elite edge rusher in the late first round is extremely difficult. So, should the Bills go all in? Absolutely. Buffalo has been knocking on the door for years now, but they need a true game changer on defense to get over the hump. The AFC is loaded with talent, and if the Bills want to compete with Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson, they need a dominant pass rush. Garrett would immediately make Buffalo one of the most feared defenses in the NFL. Of course, there are other options. If the Browns decide to keep Garrett, the Bills could explore a trade for Las Vegas Raiders star Max Crosby or target a veteran free agent like Khalil Mack. But Garrett is the ultimate prize. He's only 29 years old, still in his prime, and has been one of the most consistent defensive players in the league. At the end of the day, it all comes down to Bills GM Brandon Beane. Is he willing to take the risk and push all his chips to the center of the table? If Garrett is truly available, Beane should do everything in his power to bring him to Buffalo. This move wouldn't just make the Bills Super Bowl contenders, it would make them the favorites. The Buffalo Bills have officially hired Ryan Nielsen as their senior defensive assistant. Head coach Sean McDermott made the announcement during his media availability at the NFL Scouting Combine on Monday. For those unfamiliar with Nielsen's background, he brings a wealth of experience to Buffalo's coaching staff. Most recently, he served as the Jacksonville Jaguars defensive coordinator. Before that, he was the Atlanta Falcons defensive coordinator in 2023 and the co-defensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints in 2022. He also doubled as the defensive line coach during his time with the Falcons and Saints, which gives us a pretty good indication of what his primary focus will be in Buffalo. McDermott confirmed that Nielsen will be working closely with the defensive line. Now, this hire raises some interesting questions about the direction of the Bills' defense. Last season, Buffalo's defensive front had its ups and downs, finishing 18th in sacks during the regular season with 39. That's not exactly a terrible number, but when you look at how the Bills struggled to get pressure in big games, especially in the AFC Championship loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, it's clear that the pass rush needs improvement. Bringing in a guy like Nielsen, who has a strong track record of developing defensive linemen, could be a step in the right direction. So what does this mean for some of the key players on the defensive line? Guys like Greg Rousseau, AJ Epineza, and even Ed Oliver could benefit tremendously from Nielsen's coaching. If you look at his past work with the Saints, he played a major role in developing Cameron Jordan into an elite pass rusher. If he can have a similar impact on Buffalo's defensive front, this hire could end up being one of the most underrated moves of the offseason. But that's not the only news we have to discuss today. Another major question looming over the Bills right now is the future of Von Miller. The veteran edge rusher is set to make $145 million in 2025. But with no guaranteed money left on his deal, it's highly unlikely that the Bills will keep him at his current cap hit of $23,814 million last year. Miller agreed to take a pay cut, reducing his salary from $5 million to $8,885 million in order to stay in Buffalo. Could he do something similar this year? The Bills will likely be asking him to restructure again if he wants to remain on the roster. When McDermott was asked about Miller's future, he didn't give a definitive answer. Instead, he spoke highly of Miller's work ethic and leadership. McDermott reminded everyone that Miller came into Buffalo and made an impact early before suffering a knee injury. He praised Miller's mentality, calling him an elite competitor who has never played the victim role. While that's all great to hear, it doesn't change the reality of the situation. Miller is turning 36 next month, and his production has declined significantly since his injury. Last season, he recorded 17 tackles, 6 sacks, and 8 quarterback hits in 13 games. While that's a step up from his 2023 season, where he had just 3 tackles and no sacks in 12 games, it's still a long way from the dominant pass rusher he used to be. Over the past 5 years, Miller has missed 33 games and hasn't been selected to a Pro Bowl since 2019. At this stage of his career, he's more of a situational player rather than an every-down edge rusher. That's why the Bills are facing a tough decision. Do they keep him around for his leadership and veteran presence, or do they move on and use that cap space to bring in younger, more productive talent? If Miller is willing to take another pay cut, the Bills may decide to keep him as a rotational pass rusher. His experience and leadership in the locker room are valuable, and he could still contribute in certain situations. However, if he refuses to restructure his contract, there's a strong possibility that Buffalo will release him and look elsewhere for pass rushing help. One thing is clear, the Bills have a lot of work to do this offseason if they want to take the next step. We saw them come so close to a Super Bowl appearance last season, only to fall short once again. That means every move they make from now until week 1 is crucial. Bringing in Ryan Nielsen is a step towards strengthening the defensive line, but it remains to be seen how much of an impact he will have. And with big decisions looming on Von Miller and other key players, this could be one of the most pivotal off seasons in recent Bills history. Now we want to hear from you. Would you be willing to trade 2 first-round picks and AJ Epineza for Myles Garrett? Do you think this is the missing piece for the Bills? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We'll be following this story closely, so stay tuned for all the latest Buffalo Bills news. Go Bills!